How do you think it feels to be an Eagles area scout that does not deal with Georgia?
Like the Northwest.
Yeah, like the Northwest scout is probably sitting in a draft room like, come on, guys.
Yeah.
Throw me a bone here.
I got a guy from Washington. I'll shut up.
Yeah.
I got a guy from Oregon. Shut up. Well,
Impressive first round for the Eagles.
yeah, some talented kids. The Georgia pipeline. They've drafted more first-round picks from Georgia the last 2 years than the previous, however many years there was a draft. It's pretty amazing. But if you're going to draft from one defense, the 2021 Georgia defense is the best ever assembled, allowed under 7 points per game, and they were almost that good this past year. So it's quite a haul.
Yeah, it makes some sense to do it that way. This is the Eagle Eye Podcast. He's Reuben Frank. I'm Dave Zangaro. A fun day in the NFL draft. Eagles walk away with Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith from Georgia. Pretty wild. I mean, if you were to tell me the Eagles came away with those two players, I'd be like, what did they give up to get there? And the answer is just a day 3 pick next year to move up one spot.
Yeah, I didn't think you could get Jalen Carter where they got him, and I didn't think you could get I didn't think you could get either one where they got him. I don't think the Eagles thought that either. If I had to guess, I would say you had a better chance of getting Jalen Carter at 9 than Nolan Smith at 30.
Yeah, I don't think if the Eagles sat there at 10, if Jalen Carter was gone, and they sat there at 10 and took Nolan Smith, I don't think anyone would have been shocked.
Yeah,
I think that when we did our on the clock mock draft, Barrett took Nolan Smith. He had the Eagles pick. He took him at 10, and we all went, okay,
yeah,
makes sense.
Sure.
So to get that guy at 30, pretty surprising.
Yeah, it was a classic case of a guy just falling. And he did have an injury last year, but I mean, everything tested out from what I've read. I don't know what Howie said. It was a pec.
It was a pec. It was torn pec. He missed the end of the season.
The medicals are that he's fine. So if it was that or something else, I don't know. But I mean, this defense needed some weapons, and they got them.
They got him. Let's start with Jalen Carter because an interesting prospect because the football side of things, he's arguably the best player in this draft, might have the highest ceiling, and he plays a position we know the Eagles value. It's interior pass rush. And to me, honestly, that's a lot harder to find than an edge rusher. There are edge rushers. There are a bunch of those guys, but to find a guy who affects the quarterback from a 3-tech or in his case, a 3-tech 4-eye like that, those are rarer. And the Eagles got maybe the best player in college football.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of a fairly recent, I think defensive tackles were not valued like this, maybe even 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. I think it's kind of a recent thing where teams and defensive coaches understand the value of generating pressure from the inside. Versatility is, I think he's a guy that could kick outside sometimes and still being able to be a beast against the run. And, there's not a lot of guys that are elite at both. And I'm not sure Jalen Carter is an elite pass rusher yet. I think he's going to be a very good one. I think Jordan Davis will too be a functional one. Not, he'll never be a 10-sack guy, but there's just so much value now on those interior guys, and they got two from the same defense. And it's funny because like last year during the pre-draft process, you were like asking around about Jalen Carter, and you're like, oh, yeah, he's good, but wait till you see the guy next year.
Jordan Davis.
Yeah.
And that was the thing. It's like you watch that 21 Georgia defense, and you're like, yeah, N'Kobe's really good. Jordan Davis is really good. The guy who flashed the most was Jalen Carter, and you thought, man, there's no way in heck they're going to be able to get him next year. Even with the Saints pick, you thought he's be way out of the range.
Although we did think the Saints pick was going to be top 5 for a while there.
For a little while.
Yeah.
Getting the top 10 was still pretty good by Howie. But obviously there's a reason he was available at pick 9, because based on his ability and what he showed in college, like he's a much better player than the 9th pick in the draft, and he fell for legitimate character concerns. We all know about the incident now in Athens. tragic incident that he played a role in, and it showed some immaturity, and I think that's the big fear about him is like, is there a maturity problem that goes even beyond that incident? That incident certainly brought it to the forefront, and it's on everyone's mind, but I think it goes beyond that too.
Well, and the pro day, maybe not being in shape for his pro day, was a product of dealing with the aftermath of the incident in Athens in January. But it's at stake. Get in better shape, and he wasn't. And you know, that's maybe not a huge red flag, but it's a red flag. He didn't put in the work, and it doesn't mean he won't on the next level, but it is a concern.
Yeah, there's a reason he was available, right?
Even Howie admitted that. He said that there's a reason he fell to 9.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the Eagles look at it like they have the infrastructure in place in terms of the locker room chemistry and leadership to pretty much like swallow any guy with character concerns, like to not make it an issue. And maybe that's a little hubris, right? Like I think there are probably a lot of organizations who think they have this great culture until it's tested. But you look at the Eagles, and I think they have a valid reason to think that. They have 4 guys who have been here a decade or more who are captains. They have a quarterback who is the oldest 24-year-old I've ever met, who kind of instills that. And he has 2 of his teammates that he won a national championship with last year on this team. One of them, the field general, Nakobe Dean, probably isn't going to let him get away with anything. So I think that you could find a team who would get themselves into trouble thinking that it's not going to be an issue for us. But with the Eagles, I think they have a legitimate reason to think that.
Yeah, I think they do. I also think, and I think Howie touched on this, it's not totally fair to expect Nakobe and Jordan to, be Jalen Carter's babysitter. I mean, they're both trying to establish their own careers.
Mm-hmm.
They both have a lot to prove this year. Jordan Davis more than Nakobe, just because he was a 1 and Nakobe was a 3. But Nakobe, certainly. And I mean, he's going to be a starter this year. So certainly ballyhooed 3rd-round pick more than most. So it's got to be everybody, not just those 2. It's got to be all the leaders on the team, but mainly it's got to be Jalen Carter. He's got to. I think we all realize he's got to grow up a little bit.
Yeah, if he does, I mean,
watch out.
This is you're talking about your replacement for Fletcher Cox, like a guy who could be that caliber player for the next decade. And look, sometimes things don't work out. You can never see the future. We get all that, but he has that level of talent, and he'll get to learn from Fletcher for a year or 2. Like last year, we talked about Jordan Davis learning from Fletcher Cox, and that's valuable for sure. Like just learning about how to be a pro and all that stuff. But Jalen Carter, at least like the player and the position, is a lot closer to Fletcher than Jordan Davis.
Right.
And the thought, like this defensive line now, holy cow.
Yeah.
I mean, they lost Javon Hargrave, and that's a big loss, but to replenish it the way they have, pretty scary.
Yeah, they're just loaded, and they're loaded inside, they're loaded outside. It's going to be fun to see it all come together. I'm guessing they won't take another edge or interior lineman in the.
You never know.
In the 2nd or 3rd round.
I mean, they could take like a big nose tackle. That's still a position of need because they don't have that guy to really rotate with Jordan Davis. So like a 7th round Broderick Martin, a guy who they had in for a visit or someone like that. Like I could see that. That wouldn't shock me.
Yeah, but I think what I was saying was just tomorrow.
Yeah, probably not day 2.
Yeah,
they've probably. Yeah, maybe never say never, but yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah. It's I mean, it's a changing of the guard up front. BG, this will probably be his last year. It'll be Fletcher's last year here, and it's going to be up to these young guys to carry on what these guys have built. I think it's going to be invaluable for them to just be around those guys for a year.
Yeah, I can't wait to watch Jalen Carter in training camp, and I think we'll get a pretty good sense pretty early in training camp what kind of shape he's in too.
Yeah, and Yeah, and I mean the Eagles are really good at that. I mean, whether it's nutrition or the training staff, I mean they'll get
Yeah.
them in shape.
I mean, well, it takes the player too. We saw
Sure.
Jordan Davis last year kind of commit himself early on to that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it helped him for a while. Then he got hurt and it was kind of
Yeah.
all bets were off for a while. But it takes the player.
Yep.
It's exciting, though. If you're an Eagles fan, I mean, I don't know how you couldn't be excited right now.
Yeah. No. I do you see Jalen Carter as a risky pick at 9, just because of the concerns about his immaturity?
I mean, I think there's risk involved. Sure, I wouldn't call it a risky pick though.
Okay.
I think there's risk involved with just about every prospect for different reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them are physical, some of them are maturity, some of them are intelligence, football intelligence. Like there are different reasons that guys are risks, and there are reasons players don't work out. That just happens to be his. So yeah, you're projecting a little bit, and they did their homework, and we'll see if they're right about it. I don't think it's like any more risky than any other pick. I think there are reasons that guys fail, and that if he fails, that'll be the reason.
Mm-hmm.
But if you know that and you're trying to do everything you can to avoid that pitfall, like you would anything, like Peter Skoronski has short arms, right? If he fails as a tackle, that's probably the reason why. But you know that, and you try to work around it. Same thing with a maturity issue, and you hope that the player overcomes it. And look, it's tough for me to like speak on the maturity issue because I don't know Jalen Carter.
Right.
We're like basing this off of an incident that was tragic, and he showed immaturity for sure. And then some other whispers of, does he really love football that much? And it's stuff that like we don't know. And at a certain point, you got to say, well, the Eagles have done their homework, and this is what they came away with, and you have to take their word for it at this point.
Yeah, and Howie has so much trust in Dom DeSandro, who's what's his title now? Vice president of something or other.
Security and tracksuits.
And I'm sure he spoke to teammates, coaches, friends, family, whatever, and reported back to the Eagles, obviously positively, because they wouldn't have taken him otherwise. So
yeah,
they feel good about it, and look, it's a tough situation, and he's a young kid. We talked to him on a Zoom call right after the pick, and I was personally disappointed with the way he handled questions about that incident in Athens. You go in and say, look, he's, he just got drafted. This is, he's talking on a Zoom call to people he doesn't know. It's not an ideal situation. But he didn't handle it real well, I didn't think.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair. I also wonder, like, you got to be ready for the questions, right? Like, someone probably should have prepped him, like, hey, like, but yeah, it's tough for me. He's a 22-year-old kid who's been through a lot. Some of it his doing, right? So I don't want to like give him a pass, but it is a lot. It's a lot, and it's still traumatic for him, whether or not he showed immaturity, didn't do the right thing. It's still traumatic, and so it's tough for me to like judge him on that. You know what I mean?
I don't even know if I don't mean to judge him. It's just my reaction. It's just kind of how I
agree. He could have handled it better.
Yeah.
I think so. I think like some extra coaching.
Sure.
I don't know if he said the right things, which doesn't necessarily mean anything anyway, but it shows a maturity.
Yeah. And his agent needs to understand that, like, he's going to get these questions. He got him at the combine. I'm sure he got him his pro day. He's going to get him. He'll probably get him tomorrow when he flies in. It wasn't just like, this was pretty serious. Look, he was charged with reckless driving. So you want to keep that in perspective. He was not in the vehicle. The vehicle he was racing had the accident. 2 people were killed, a staffer from Georgia and one of his teammates. So he used the word, one of the guys asked him, I think it might have been Ed Kratz, asked him about, what's it been like for you since then? What have you learned from it? And he said, when you say everything's gone smoothly, that just kind of rubbed me the wrong way.
Yeah, again, like he's probably thinking in terms of I don't know what he's thinking.
Yeah,
but like he might have been thinking like in terms of the visits, and was it a reason that like teams were like hounding him or something like that? It's tough to know exactly what he was thinking. And
have you been able to learn anything about what transpired since that transpired? It's been really smooth. A lot of teams really on my visits didn't bring up the accident. It was more just to get to know me. I don't know. He's an incredible talent, and yeah, I mean, I hope he does the right thing.
Yeah, that's all you can hope for.
Yeah,
I mean, but to me, it's a home run pick. Honestly, it's not without risk, but like I mentioned, like I think there are risks involved with a lot of players.
No, and that's fair. And I mean, I love the pick. I love the player. And he's a young kid, and I know one thing: once the Eagles PR gets a hold of him, he'll be prepped for every question.
Yeah, that's true. But gosh, like a year ago, watching him on tape and thinking that he's an Eagle right now, like, I didn't think that was going to be possible.
Yeah,
and to have him on the field with three of his teammates, I asked Nick Sirianni about the benefit of having four guys who are college teammates, and he talked about off the field. I think there's a benefit on the field too, especially when you have like Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter playing next to each other. You have same with Nolan Smith. Like these guys should have a general feel for how to play with one another, and then having Nakobe as kind of a field general behind them.
Yeah,
it really feels like they're recreating that defense. And you're right, if you're going to recreate any defense, that's a good one to start with.
Yeah, and I do think there's a level of communication among those guys that I mean, they'll start out ahead of where normal rookies will start out, just because they have that comfort level on the field and off.
And I guess there's always the theory when you're drafting players from a really good team or really good unit that what's the saying? Some of their parts.
The sum of the parts is greater than the whole. The whole is greater than the sum of the parts. It's late. It's 1 a.m.
It
right
is
now.
late. But like I think there's always the fear that like, are they really this good individually, or are they this good because they're together? Well, they're together anyway in the NFL, so maybe it'll work out. Nolan Smith.
Yeah.
At 30, we talked about him a little bit earlier. If they would have taken him at 10, you would have said, yeah, sure. And the fact that he was there at 30, how he even alluded to the fact that they were getting some phone calls about that pick, and he didn't say this. I'm thinking if he's not there, they probably trade out.
Yeah.
And they probably went into the day thinking we're going to have a really good chance to trade out of 30 and then add some picks in day 2, day 3. And that would have made sense, especially after trading up. But even though they didn't give up this year's pick to trade up, but that would have made sense to try to get some more assets. And they probably would have done it if a guy like Nolan Smith wasn't available.
Yeah, it was another big surprise. And I don't know, maybe we'll learn in the next few days why he dropped the way he did. But I mean, this is a really talented kid. He just a leader type. Kind of, some of the same things you heard about Nakobe, you hear about him, just as far as intangibles.
Yeah.
But a relentless player on the field. He's versatile. He can do it all. Plays the run. What is he, 240?
He is fun to watch.
Yeah.
He is very fun to watch. He does not always play like he's 240. He's crazy athletic.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at this dude's spider chart, and the measurables are all like you barely even see the line, and then the athleticism is just off the charts.
Yeah.
I think there are reasons he fell. If I had to guess the reasons, maybe the pec had something to do with it. I don't think that was the real reason. I think his size isn't going to be for everyone.
Yeah.
A lot of teams have, height, weight requirements for positions, and he's not going to meet that. And any team that drafts him has to have a plan for how to use him. And the nice thing about the Eagles is like, yeah, they have that guy already. They have Hassan Reddick, an undersized outside linebacker, edge rusher who has extremely unusual athleticism, and they figured out how to use him. And it's different defense, sure, but similar defense. And they figured out how to use Hassan Reddick. It's the same idea with Nolan Smith. And I think the other reason is the production at college, at least in terms of traditional metrics,
Right.
wasn't great.
I think 4.5 is the most sacks he ever had. I think.
Yeah, not even that. 3.5 in 2021. He had 11.5 sacks in 4 years at Georgia.
I got him with 12.5 and 4.5 last year, but I don't know.
Okay,
that's Sports Reference.
Yeah,
but
in any case, the production wasn't great.
Yeah. But also, he's on a defense where there's like 11 All-Americans.
Yeah, you're kind of racing to the quarterback at times. And if you look at, I don't have them in front of me, but you look at like some more advanced metrics, his like rush rate was much higher. So he was getting pressure. It wasn't necessarily bringing the quarterback down. And I wouldn't even worry about him not bringing the quarterback down. He plays pretty violently.
That's the word you keep seeing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Violent player. Yeah, I mean it's another one that you just can't wait till training camp starts to see what he's all about.
I'm excited to watch him.
I know you are. How many days till training camp?
Gosh, training camp's gonna be fun.
Yeah, Dave's favorite time of the year.
Do you have any other thoughts on these guys?
No, we didn't have a chance to talk to everything happened so late. The first round was longer than last year.
About 15 to 20 minutes longer. Yeah, didn't care for that.
So we didn't talk to Nolan. We'll talk to him tomorrow.
Yeah.
Georgia now ties USC for most Eagles first round picks in history.
Oh, really? It looks like they showed it on ESPN. Nakobe and Jordan were at Nolan Smith's draft party tonight.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, it's kind of cool.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah. And our John Clark, John is at the draft in Kansas City. I had to think about where it was for a second. And he got an interview with Jordan with gosh, this is gonna be tricky.
Yeah.
With Jalen Carter. And while he was interviewing Jalen, he got Nakobe on a FaceTime. I didn't even realize that Nakobe's with his other 3 teammates who they're now all gonna be in Philly. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it is. Maybe they'll get a big house together and make it a reality show.
Maybe.
The Bulldog Bunch.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. That's not bad. The last Georgia player the Eagles had drafted before last season was Brendan Boykin in 2012.
5th round?
4th round.
4th round.
Yeah. A long time.
Yeah. And the last first round pick before last year was Bernard Williams, right?
Yeah.
Or Ben Smith was 90.
Okay.
Bernard Williams was 94. What was the other thing? Let's see. Georgia. Oh, how about this? The Eagles since 1991 have had 30 first-round picks. 22 of them been linemen.
Yeah.
13 D-line, 9 O-line, 5 receivers, 2 quarterbacks, 1 DB, 1 corner, no safeties, no running backs, no linebackers.
I mean, the D-line in the last decade just crushing everything else.
Yeah. Yeah, they don't even draft offensive linemen anymore.
Not really. It's D-line.
Yeah.
So much.
Yeah. It works for them.
It does. They had 70 sacks last year, and you could do it again.
They're not going to get 70 next year.
You could do it. It'd be tough.
You know what's weird is that the last 8 games of the season, I think they had something like it was 37 sacks and only had 3 interceptions. And I don't know how that's possible.
It's a little weird. I saw Slay was pretty excited about the Carter pick. And look, yeah, I mean, you get pass rush like that, you're going to get some gift wrapped interceptions on the back end.
Yeah. And that's going to be big. I mean, we've talked about how big this year is for Slay.
Yeah.
But
they still have some work to do in the secondary. So that's one way to kind of mask it a little bit is to load up the line.
Yeah. You okay with going defense?
Yeah. Defense, you mean like defensive line or just defense?
Just defense.
Yeah. Like people like offense or defense take the best
Sure.
player at premium positions, and that's what they did. And you look at it like realistically, what positions on offense were they going to take in the first round? Line and maybe a running back late.
I mean, maybe a receiver at 30.
Maybe a receiver at 30.
If
like a skill guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, or tight end.
Skill guy.
Yeah. Not a quarterback.
Never know. Levis was there. Did you give any thought to it?
I thought about it. Like, yeah, I've talked to Jalen, and he understands.
I wonder if Nolan Smith wasn't there, if a team would have traded up to try to grab Levis there, or Hooker.
Yeah, he was supposed to be the hot quarterback.
Mm-hmm. And that was like kind of what we were wondering, was like, would a quarterback be there so the Eagles could trade out? And there were two there. So, I mean, Levis was. It's crazy. A few days ago, some dude on Reddit mentioned that Levis would go first overall. All the sports books went nuts.
How did that?
And now he drops out of the first round completely.
Where did that come from? The odds just completely why would
some guy on Reddit said he knew someone who knew someone?
But why would Vegas believe that?
Because Vegas is having a tough time with these drafts, because there's so many fake things out there and there's so much misinformation, and they don't want to get crushed by it.
Well, they did.
Yeah.
What else we got?
That's it. Let's do the read, and then on the other side, we'll talk about some options going forward and the weirdest draft day story that we still haven't talked about.
Yeah, that's right.
Catch all the sports action and more at Rivers Casino, Philadelphia. Whether it's the money line or the pass line, there's something for everyone in a great sports book. Rivers Casino, Philadelphia. Philly loves a winner. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Rube, so Jonathan Gannon. No, I didn't know the Cardinals were interested in me. Who, me? Jonathan Gannon? Had no idea. Uh-oh. Turns out he did. There was a no phone call from the Cardinals GM to Jonathan Gannon after the NFC Championship game, and the Cardinals got a little slap on the wrist.
Yeah, it's interesting because they self-reported, so I'm not sure how that goes. GM, I don't really look at his phone records, but there's a dead period. I think what is it? This dead period after the NFC Championship game where they can't talk. You can't talk to a candidate, and they did, and the Cards realized it somehow. I don't know. They looked at his phone records and they reported themselves to the NFL. So usually tampering charges come from the team that believes it's been tampered with, not from the team that did the tampering. Yeah. But I don't even remember that ever happening.
Kind of strange.
Yeah. And what's stranger is the settlement.
It is a strange settlement, and I wanted to get more clarity from Howie Roseman. He was not into answering these questions, but it basically became a trade. So the Eagles and Cardinals swapped third-round picks. So the Eagles, it was a big jump for them. They went from 94 all the way up to 66, which is the third pick in the third round. So that's a big difference. And the Eagles also gave away their own fifth-round pick from next year. So still,
17 fifth-round picks projected.
4. But yeah, they still make out in terms of value, and next year's picks are not as valuable as this year's, just based on the way that chart works. And even if you act like it matters as much or it counts as much, the Eagles still basically gain the value of a fifth-round pick based on the
they moved from
chart,
the third from the last pick in the third round to the second pick, third pick overall in the third round. So that's huge.
It's a big difference.
And all because the Cards GM called Jonathan Gannon right after the NFC Championship game.
Yeah. And so everything Jonathan Gannon said in his introductory press conference was hogwash.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's off to a weird start there.
Yeah.
In Arizona.
Yeah. And a bad finish in Philly.
Certainly a bad finish in Philly. And Nick Sirianni was asked about Gannon's focus level going in the Super Bowl, which I think you have to bring in the question. Obviously he wants to win the game, and I'm sure he put the work in, but there was clearly something else on his mind. I don't think that mattered. Maybe, I don't know, but it's fair to ask. And Nick got the question about it.
Yeah. And I think it was a fair question. And he said, I know his heart was in the right place. I know he put in the work. You got to go by that. But still, it's a bad look.
Certainly a bad look. Yeah, and I had someone ask me, Gannon admitted that he didn't handle one thing well when he left, and I had someone asked me if that was what he was talking about. I don't think so. I think that was about how he took Nick Rollis with him.
Right.
I don't think that was the issue that he and Sirianni had about his departure.
Yeah. Yeah. You're probably right.
Yeah. Still very strange.
Yeah.
I mean, what a strange way to start. It was before the draft even started. And you're like, I didn't even know this was a possibility.
I've never heard. I'd have to look and see if there's ever been a trade as a settlement for a tampering charge.
Like normally, it's like you might have to surrender a pick,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. You surrender a pick. Sometimes there's a fine involved.
Mm-hmm. And it's still kind of confusing because Howie intimated that the NFL came up with that
right
deal and the Eagles signed off on it because the statement made it. We'll have to get more clarity on this. The statement made it seem like the two teams, like almost like an out of court settlement.
Yeah, that's what it sounded like. But it's hard to imagine the NFL saying, "All right, you take 94 and send it to 66." I mean,
I'm guessing the two GMs said, "Well, let's figure this out."
Which is weird because it was the one GM who,
yeah, he self-reported.
Yeah,
it's very strange.
Very strange.
Tampering for Jonathan Gannon.
Yeah,
who no one else was going to hire.
No,
all the other jobs were full.
Yeah, and it wasn't like you were going to lose them.
Yeah, very strange.
Yeah, but Eagles get a pretty significant bump in that third round. So they now have 62 and 66.
Yeah, so they have 4 picks remaining. They have their second round pick, which is 62 overall, late in the second round. That's their own pick. They have 66 now from the Cardinals, and they have 2 7th round picks, 219 and 248. And next year they're still projected with 10 picks. They give one to the Cardinals, a 5th round pick, and they gave a 4th round pick to move up one spot to get maybe the best player in the draft.
What a thing.
Howie's good at this part, and maybe he's missed on some player evals, but like he's good at this part. He's good at the maximizing value.
Exactly. I think I used that exact phrase on our one of our shows earlier. That's what he's best at.
Mm-hmm.
Is understanding value of picks and understanding value of future picks and combining picks and trading picks and just getting the most out of them. And the more you do that, the more chances you have to hit on players.
Yeah. Hitting on players. Eagles have 2 picks on day 2. We each came up with a few names here that we think might make some sense. Let's just ping pong this back and forth a little bit. I'll let you go first.
Well, you mentioned Levis. I'm going to start with Cedric Tillman's a receiver from Tennessee who had a really big year 2 years ago. Had an ankle that never really, he was in and out of the lineup, never really did much this past year. But 2 years ago, and he's got good size, 6'3", 215, 220. Was almost 1,100 yards, 12 touchdowns 2 years ago. So he's a guy who I think could be there at the end of the second, early in the third. You kind of throw out this past year because he was dealing with the ankle, but you look at his junior performance, and it was pretty big time, and he's got really good size. So good wide receiver there.
Yeah, I think receivers in play. It's interesting. His teammate Jalen Hyatt still available. I thought with his speed he was going to sneak into the first round. My favorite thing, I was hoping he was going to get picked by the Chiefs because Nolan Smith actually ran a faster 40 than Jalen Hyatt, and I wanted to have that juxtaposition. But
Hyatt was super productive, but didn't run well.
Hyatt, he ran a 4.4.
Oh, did he? I thought he ran like 4.45.
No, he ran a 4.4 flat. It's just somehow Nolan Smith ran faster.
I think he'll be gone. That's why I didn't pick him.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
Yeah. Who do you
got? My first name is Devin Achane from Texas A&M. If they go running back, he'd be the guy I'd go after. And there's some other options. Jahmyr Gibbs went. We thought Jahmyr Gibbs was in play at 30. He went super early.
Go 14?
12, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, to the Lions, which, hey, maybe DeAndre Swift's available. Would you make that phone call?
No?
No?
I don't think so.
Oh, interesting. I'd make that phone call.
DeAndre Swift.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
50 yards on the first carry against the first play of the year, right?
Yeah, he can play.
Where is he? St. Joe's Prep?
I should know that.
Yeah, maybe.
Make me look it
He's
up.
he's only 23.
It's 24.
Just turned 24.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I might make that call.
Yeah, I'd make that call. And he went to Georgia, so they're probably already on the phone.
It's probably already here.
Yeah, but if not, A-Chain, just game-breaking speed, 4.32 at the combine. But like, he's not just that. He's not just a speed guy. He can run between the tackles. He's super smooth out of the backfield catching the ball. Plays way tougher than a guy who's 188 pounds. He's not going to be like a bell cow, tote the rock kind of running back, but that's okay. They can find a role for him and give you some return capability too. There are some other running backs like Charbonnet, UCLA's out there. Tyjae Spears, maybe.
Charbonnet also made my list.
Yeah. Oh, is he on your list? I'm sorry.
Almost made my list.
Oh, almost made your
Did
list.
not.
Okay. I thought I
crossed him out.
Thought I stole some thunder there.
What does that mean?
Stole some
How
thunder?
do you steal thunder?
Like that? I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know the origin of that saying. All right, who's your next guy?
My next guy is a safety from Illinois, Sidney Brown, who I know
player.
You're a fan of.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of an all-around type of guy, versatile playmaker. Could certainly use some help in that secondary.
Yeah, he would make some sense. I think maybe third round for him isn't crazy. Maybe second.
Either of those picks, 62, 66.
They're pretty close. Yeah, I like that one. I'll give you Cam Smith, cornerback from South Carolina. For whatever reason, like, he doesn't seem to be highly thought of as some, like, it's a pretty deep corner class. Like Keely Ringo, I thought about putting on the list because he's a Georgia guy, and it seems like a pretty safe bet. But I have a feeling he'll be gone before the Eagles range. But Cam Smith is a guy who might not be. So I would like that. He's kind of battle tested in the SEC. Played for South Carolina. Played against some pretty good competition.
I don't think Howie likes SEC guys, though.
He's a little undersized, I guess. Like he's a tad under 6 foot, but I think he's long enough to play on the outside. I think he probably gives you some flexibility inside. I think he's a really solid player. I like him maybe more than what I've seen him slotted, but that's fine because I'd take him late in the second round, early third.
My next guy is just huge, Dwan Jones, 6'8", 375.
He's a giant.
Tailback. O-tackle from Ohio State. So, everyone from Ohio State is like huge.
It's really funny because like he's so much bigger than Paris.
Yeah.
And Paris is huge.
It's huge.
Yeah. Paris is 6'5", 330.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's Ohio State listed him at 374, 6'8", 374. That's like, that's like Mulata size.
Mm-hmm.
Lane's 32. I think he'll be 33 before the season starts, and still as good as ever. Mulata is as good as ever, but they like tackles, and he's an intriguing one with that size, and he's athletic.
He is athletic. I think he'd worry about the weight a little bit.
Maybe.
You're gonna keep it. You can't get too much bigger than that.
Yeah.
Then you're in, a little trouble there. I'll give you another tackle.
But he's 6'8".
Yeah, but I mean, he can't be like 400 pounds.
No, I wouldn't want him to put on 25 pounds.
Oh, he's not that far off from it. I'll give you Matthew Bergeron from Syracuse, another tackle.
Yeah,
who I think probably has some guard flexibility. He's only played tackle, but he's played right tackle. He's played left tackle. I think he could slide in at guard. So you'd have a guy who can be a swing tackle immediately, some guard flexibility. Maybe you have him compete with Cam Jurgens for that spot. A guy like that would make a lot of sense to me.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not going to say surprised because you never know with Howie, but I really expect him to take an O-line with one of those 2 picks.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I thought you were going to go the other way.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
No.
I think it's very possible. And like, I know that there's a thought, well, like, there's not a starting position. Why would you take a guy? Because the last 2 years in the second round, they took Cam Jurgens and Landon Dickerson without a real plan to start either of those guys.
True.
And one they did and one they didn't, but they still did it.
Yeah.
And they did it higher, like a lot higher on the draft board than 62.
And when you start thinking about trying to fill a position, because that's a mistake.
Yeah.
We know that. But if it lines up, then it makes sense.
Yeah.
Tomorrow will be fun. Be a lot of sitting around for the first. Although it'll go faster.
It'll go faster.
But then 2 picks in a row,
Mm-hmm.
almost.
Yeah, back to back.
Yeah,
it'll be fun. And then day 3 will be a lot of sitting around because I only have those 2 7th rounders.
Yeah, but I have a hunch there'll be more.
He'll get back up in there.
I mean, I thought it was going to happen today. I really thought he was going to get out of 30, but who would have known Nolan Smith would be there?
I started wondering if it's time to think about trading up to get Nolan Smith.
Yeah, we were talking about
trade a future pick to get that guy shouldn't have been there, right? So you're thinking, all right, he starts moving down the line, and this is really funny. Actually, I was on. You'll like this. We were on the on the clock. Was that on the clock? Or was that you were on the clock at 11? And I'm on the air as the Cowboys are picking,
right?
And we hear they pick Smith, and Barrett goes, he thinks Nolan Smith is off the board. No, it was Mozzie Smith from Michigan.
Yeah,
and there was a confusing moment there for a second. They took Smith, and Nolan Smith's off the board, but it was a different Smith. His big old nose tackle.
I thought Dallas was going to take Nolan Smith.
I thought they were going to go. Mayer's still out there, isn't he?
He is.
I thought they were going to take Mayer. I'm a little surprised he's still there. Tight ends are deep. Maybe that's why I think there's only one. It was just Kincaid, right, in the first round. Yeah. It's tough. If people think we're sitting around watching a draft, but once the Eagles make picks, it's we're doing stuff. So sometimes I'm catching up after the fact.
Somebody tweeted to me and said, "Rube, why are you still awake?" Tweeted something
we're doing it.
Kind of our job.
Anything else from this draft that the first round? I'm looking at it now. Finally.
Now, one comment Howie made when we talked to him was just about being flexible, and I think today was an example of that, because I don't think, and he even said that, he said, "Well, we didn't expect to get these guys when the day started," and
I think they expected to get Jalen Carter, or they'd have a shot at him.
I think they felt they had a shot, but I thought he'd be gone. I thought they would have to move up too much.
Well, it's funny, when the Seahawks were on the clock and they were really milking it. It got down to 30 seconds before they put the pick in. I thought,
I think you said something to me.
Yeah, I was like, this is taking a long time. This could be it.
Yeah.
And honestly, I bet Howie was on the phone. It wasn't crazy to think that you needed to get up that far, and it ends up working out. And that's the tough thing. Howie prides himself on knowing what they're doing, which isn't necessarily true.
Yeah.
I think we all kind of knew they wanted Jalen Carter, but that's what makes it tough, is that some teams, the Houston Texans, no one knew what the heck they were going to do. Daniel Jeremiah had a great line. He's like, I'd trust Nick Caserio with the nuclear codes.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah.
Nothing got out of that building. What a draft they had.
Interesting. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Taking the quarterback.
Yeah.
No one thought they were going to take, and then getting back up to get Will Anderson with the very next pick.
Yeah, that was strong.
Yeah, I'm trying to load the draft, and it's just not loading for me. I really want to see it. It's not doing it. I'm trying to think what else. The Jahmyr Gibbs pick.
That
surprised me.
Yeah, he's a talented kid, but I'm not sure he's that talented.
It's a lot higher than I expected.
Yeah.
Bijan going 8.
Higher than I expected?
No, I mean, it made sense, Atlanta. I thought maybe the Eagles would try to trade up to 8 to get Carter, and the Falcons would slide back to 10 and take Bijan. But I don't blame them for just taking their guy. That's who they wanted.
Yeah. I thought you made a really good point on one of the on Huddle tonight before the draft about
just one.
Just about how when you're drafting that high, you want a guy that's going to be with your franchise for a second contract, who's going to be here for 8 to 10 years. And the percentage of running backs that get a second contract it's really, really low. I think Shady's the only one in the last 20 years. Maybe Westbrook did get a second contract. Probably did.
And you're putting yourself in that position to now feel obligated to do it if you draft someone this high.
Right.
You get into that Zeke Saquon territory.
Yeah. Where you're like, well,
you're paying him for what he's done, but not what he's going to do.
His best years are behind him, but we picked him second or eighth or whatever it is. Rashad Penny. So you draft and I think you made the point about four guys who've been with the franchise for 10 years or more. They're all, Lane, Kelsey, um, BG, and Fletch are all linemen, and they've all had long, relatively healthy careers, and they play positions where you can sign guys to big second contracts, and they don't have a limited shelf life. So that's a good way to look at it.
Yeah, I have the draft order in front of me. Finally, just a few quick thoughts. Love Anthony Richardson to Shane Steichen.
Yeah,
I mean, that's a big swing, but man, Shane Steichen, I think, has the ability to develop that kid, and he has a higher ceiling than arguably any other quarterback in this draft. He needs to play. He hasn't played, I think, 13 starts
right
in college, but man, that's a fun player for Shane. Devin Witherspoon going that high surprised me a little bit.
Fifth.
And then, gosh, Christian Gonzalez going all the way down to 17 to the Patriots after Emmanuel Forbes. That surprised me.
Yeah.
Darnell Wright going 10 to the Bears. I like that. He's a mauler, man.
Low tackle from Tennessee.
And I'm fine with him going above Skoronski, who, if he's a guard, I don't love the value. I know he's a really good player, but it kind of depends on your positional evaluation of him.
He went to the Titans at 11. I'd have to see like some analytics on O tackles and their arm length.
It doesn't happen often. I mean, Rashawn Slater's arms are 33 inches. Who preceded him at Northwestern. He obviously was a Pro Bowler his rookie season. I think Skoronski's arms are 32 and a quarter, so even shorter than Rashawn.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe his technique is good enough that it doesn't matter that much. But man, I hate what the Lions did.
Yeah,
Gibbs at 12, and then Jack Campbell at 18. Was that just Dan like, I want another Campbell around here? Jack Campbell would be a great linebacker 5 years ago, 10 years ago.
Yeah, I think Jimmy Kempski said the Lions. It was a great 1972 draft, a running back and a linebacker at 18.
A big linebacker.
Yeah, big. Yeah. Big.
Definitely not my favorite linebacker in this draft. That was surprising. I don't think they. And like you always talk about how he does so well, like maximizing value. And look, I don't know for sure. I don't think he needed to take Gibbs at 12. I don't think he needed to take Campbell at 18.
Yeah.
Like, that's not. It's not just about getting the players you want. It's about maximizing value up and down the board.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Zay Flowers to the Ravens is fun. Oh man, there was a real run on receivers. Huh? 4 in a row. I was in my that might have been when we were doing the Jalen Carter conference call. Jackson Smith and Jigba, Quentin Johnston, Zay Flowers, Jordan Addison.
What do you think about Addison?
He's solid.
Yeah, you like him?
Yeah, I think he's a slot, but that's fine. The Vikings once drafted a guy who was supposed to be a slot only. It worked out all right for them, so maybe that one will. Miles Murphy
what do you think
at
that
29
means for Jalen
is
Reagor,
good value.
Is he still there?
The funny thing is, I saw someone tweet him. I want to give credit. I don't remember who it was, but TCU receiver at 21. What could go wrong?
Yikes.
Oh, and then I like Felix Anudike-Uzomah at 32. I missed that one, or 31, I guess.
31, yeah.
I missed that one after the Nolan Smith pick. I like him a lot. He would have been a fine pick at 30 for the Eagles if Nolan Smith wasn't there.
Yeah, edge from K-State.
Mm-hmm.
Barrett loves that guy.
I'm sure he does. Yeah, good little run on edge players there at the end. Miles Murphy, Nolan Smith, and Anudike-Uzomah.
How many edges went in all? Anderson, Wilson, Van Ness, McDonald.
McDonald was early, too.
So 7 edges. Yeah, McDonald went early.
You know what's funny? Joe Douglas drafted McDonald, and the first things I heard about what they were saying up there about McDonald was about his bend. I was having flashbacks to 2017 when they drafted Derek Barnett. And Joe Douglas introduced us all to the term ankle flexion.
Yeah. Joe was good with his phrases.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. My favorite was
insider draft phrases.
He was talking about Tano Passanio. Remember him, Villanova kid?
Yeah.
Body beautiful.
All right.
Now that we're getting into scouting terms in minute 50 of a podcast at 1:30 in the morning. I think it's probably time to close this down. What do you think?
Yeah.
All right. If you enjoy the Eagle Eye
Let's do it
podcast,
again tomorrow.
please rate and subscribe wherever you get your pods. If you're watching on YouTube, please click the like button, subscribe there as well. That's right. We'll do another podcast on Friday night, another podcast on Saturday night. We love the draft. Thanks, everyone, for listening. We'll talk to you soon.